I was on my neighbor next door. I was like, I've been looking to purchase like, like another home or whatever. And my neighbor next door, it looks like he was like gearing up to move. And then a friend of mine told me, girl, like, you know how there's like financial stuff that happens in the news, but then it's like it hits home. So she was supposed to buy a house around the corner. House is really beautiful. It's really hard to get into this neighborhood. She found it. She had a great interest rate that she locked in for 3%, which is awesome. Historic lows, we all know. But the problem is that the seller's agent was slow. And if you don't know anything about interest rates, is typically the bank will give you a specific number of days, sometimes it's 30 days or whatever, to secure like whatever, basically to get all your stuff together. So she had done all of her stuff and gotten all her stuff together, and the seller's agent, so that means the people that represent the people who are selling the house, was supposed to get their stuff together. And they did not, the agent. And
so
as
the
a
rate
result,
lock expired?
Yes.
Damn.
And she went from 3% to 6%. And now she can't afford the house.
I was about to say, rates at 3%, like that was a couple months ago. Like rates have gone back up. Now that the Fed's raising rates, shit.
I know. So, she is livid. Now, here's the thing. Like folks don't really understand that sometimes so if your rate goes up, it makes the price of the house not necessarily go up, but it certainly makes the monthly payment go up. So now all of a sudden, someone who could afford this $500,000 home can only afford a $450,000 home because they can't afford the monthly payments of the $500,000 home unless the interest rate was super low. And so now you're going to have homes that it's like some of these homes are going to have to adjust their prices just because people who could afford them, with a lower interest rate are not going to be able to afford them now. So it's like, yikes, tell me we're headed for a recession without telling me we're heading for a recession, child.
I know. That's the whispers out there. And then the stock market, I'm usually pretty good. This is not our first rodeo. How long have we been doing this show? 7 years now. How many different stock market dips have we come and said to y'all, calm down. It's going to be all right. Don't look. Ooh, I was like this last night looking at my not my 401k, but my 401ks that I've now consolidated into my, my One Central brokerage account. And here's the thing. How on your brokerage account, you can view the returns from like year to date, 1 year ago, 5 years. I like to start with the 10-year outlook.
Yes.
How has this performed over 10 years?
Yes.
And I was like, oh, it's up. I forget what the percent, double digits, up.
Okay, good.
But yeah, if you look to how I've been doing since January, it ain't a pretty picture.
Ooh.
I lost. Yeah, it was down, negative. But let's talk about why and what's going on. It seems like a million different things. One, the Fed is raising interest rates.
Yes.
And businesses, aka those things that make up the stock market, don't love higher borrowing costs. In general, inflation is still cray-cray.
Cray-cray.
Like insanely crazy, right?
It's looking like 1980s. Some of y'all wasn't even born then.
Yeah. I'm about to Google it right now. What is the inflation rate? What's it been, like 8%? It's 40 years. It hasn't been as high as it is.
I know. And I'm 42. So I was 2 years old when we last experienced this craziness.
8.5%.
I just
record
checked.
high.
Why did
of March.
Why did Mandy make me do this? I just checked my account. I'm down.
What
23.
is it? Don't
for the last 3 months. I'm down 23. Basically 24%. Yo, that's crazy.
But quick, look at the 10-year outlook. Quick.
Okay.
For the
of
5 year.
Of all time? Okay, of all time, I'm up 14% of all time.
See, there we go. And the pitter-patter anxiety starts to relax.
Yes. Okay. Yes. But
I really had to do that because it's stressful. It's like, should I be doing something different? No.
The truth. Well, that's not true. Here's the thing. We started off friends. Anyway, so
okay, Kelly,
that
let's
song.
Go.
Right?
Kelly
So the thing is that during the last major recession, 2009, 10, that's when wealth was made for so many people. And you hear people say that over and over and over again. And then we lose our minds every time we have the opportunity to grow wealth in this way. And the reason why you have the opportunity to grow wealth in this way is that there are things that are legitimately down, like this is not a good company down. And there are things that are down situationally, like this is a good company, but everybody down, so you down too. So if you have companies that you've been studying and you know this is actually like a really good company, or maybe it's just the market itself, because the market goes up and down, that you might say, I'm going to invest in like the overall market through an ETF, which is like a group of stocks and bonds and other financial instruments that you can purchase that mimics what the market does. You know, this is certainly not investment advice, but I'm just saying in general that, like, you know, when the market is down, it may present an opportunity to stock up on things that are quote unquote on sale. But remember, in order for something to be on sale, it actually has to be the real value. It's really worth the value. It just happens to be temporarily discounted. That's the key to investing, is finding things that are temporarily discounted, stocking up when they're on sale. And when they come return to regular price, getting you behind on Etsy and selling them for full price, y'all.
Yeah.
That is what. So there's real opportunity here that, yes, you might have lost money, but know that over the last 100 years, the market has always gone back up and exceeded where it was previously. So if we were to look back, you know, last 50 years, 100 years, we know that that is likely to happen. Of course, no one knows the future, but it might be an opportunity to like stock up. I'm certainly looking, I have a stock or an investment WhatsApp chat, and we're always talking about things like, you know, what are you going to pick up that's on sale? So what about you, Mandra? How are you going to be riding this wave?
Well, you know what? I love, well, I want to talk about something else. I love this podcast called The Indicator, and I have to shout them out. Okay. They are like a 10-minute quick little, they basically pick one economic indicator and they kind of dive into it each week. And I love it. It's a great little nugget of a show. And last week's episode had me really noodling because they were talking about I bonds, which don't sound sexy at all. You think about bonds, savings bonds, and you're like, oh, that thing that grandma bought me, you know, in the early 90s or 80s or whatnot. But inflation bonds have been getting really, really sexy. And there's this one particular bond called the I bond, which they talked about. And then after I heard about it, I was like Googling it and really interested. But because of inflation, they basically created this product called the I bond back in the 90s to give investors an alternative, like another way to invest their money that was relatively safe, that was actually backed by the government. So you're never going to lose the money that you put in. And it had a guaranteed interest rate. And because of how, and it's called the inflation bond, the I bond, because it is meant to protect you against inflation. Now, before you get too excited, and I'm going to tell you what the interest rate is today, guaranteed 9.62% interest rate. Guaranteed. Guaranteed, right? You can only put $10,000 in it a year. Okay, so that's the one caveat, but it exists. Right? Girl. Inflation bonds. It exists. It's not a scam.
Girl,
it's
you
not.
see me with
I'm serious.
I'm literally
and I know a risk-adverse investor like you're like,
girl.
Say what?
I'm like, I bond for when I speak to Anjali, my financial advisor, this coming week. I'm like, girl, please explain I bond. 9 point what percent you said?
9.62. 9.62. Oh, look at my old friend Ken getting quoted in this article about them. Now, this is Ken, my friend Ken. We used to work together when I was at a couple companies ago. He's the founder of a website called depositaccounts.com. When you talk about the, you know, revenge of the nerds and like people who are obsessed with conservative, you know, investments, Ken Tuman is like the ringleader, and he's amazing. So I'm sure he's just dancing and having a party right now. Everyone's thinking I bonds are sexy. But I read about it, and I'm thinking less about my investments these days, and I just don't have the bandwidth. But my dad is finally getting his act together at 62.
Yay.
No, shout out to my dad. And he had me open him up a brokerage account at Vanguard, and he put in, you know, some money. And I'm meant to be figuring out how to invest it. And I'm like, duh, I bond. Like, at least that's the first step for someone like him who's in his early 60s, and he literally needs to hedge against inflation. And that's what the I bond is meant to do. It's meant to, at the minimum, keep your money protected against inflation so that the dollar you put in today will at least be $1, you know, down the road. Yeah. But because of how high inflation is, we just said like what, 8-9%.
Yeah, it's not much.
So the I bond rate has gone up. So if y'all want to look into it, it got my little ears perked up this past weekend. And anyway, but those limitations, the whole like only 10,000 thing, I think it's 10,000 per year. And on top of that, it's only, you know, 9.6% is exciting. Yeah. Especially when you think about how much did we lose? You said 20-something%.
24%.
Yeah, but still over the 10-year period, what? I think I was up like, you said 14. I haven't looked at mine, but double digits, right? So that you don't have the potential to be as high as the stock market. So that's why it's obviously not the only answer, but it can be just one investment that I was thinking about outside
So
of
that's
stock
what they call like a
investing.
hedge, right? Because basically
Yes.
when you do that, it's like you like, for example, for those of you like, what does that mean when people say they're hedging their bets? It means that as they take a risk over here, and we don't know which way it's going to go, you might go to 23%, 30%, whatever. You hedge your bets by saying, let me keep some things aside for safety. For that way, I can only fall but so far. Because it's like, I can, with great risk comes great reward. So we could go on this side. And then over here, it's like, we can only fall but so much. So with any of these things, really the key is figuring out the balance for you.
Yeah.
How much do I want to put in, like, quote unquote, safer investments? And how much do I want to put in investments that have the potential to go as high as possible? But just know, with great height comes great falls, child. So you just got to know, like, what that balance is for you.
Well, one last thing on the I-bond, because I did bring up this question. Here's the rules. You can put up to $10,000 in I-bonds per person per year.
Okay.
You have to go to treasurydirect.gov where you can purchase them.
Okay.
And then you can actually, if you're getting a federal income tax refund, you can buy up to an additional $5,000 worth using your income tax refund. So if you're a couple and you're filing jointly or purchasing these jointly, that means you can buy up to $25,000 worth per year. So definitely a conversation to be had with your individual financial planner, not your financial besties, us.
What are you reading that from? Because I'm literally going to email Anjali that
my girl Ann Carnes
article
from the New York Times. You want me to? I'll send you the link right now.
Oh yes, please do.
Yes, and check out that episode of The Indicator. Shout out to them. I love them. They are my walk companions on Friday.